The courtroom was thick with tension long before the truth was spoken. Every creak of a chair, every whisper, every glare carried judgment. Marcus Reed sat in his orange jumpsuit, wrists bound in cold steel, eyes calm while the world around him decided his fate. The prosecutor strutted like a man certain of victory, his voice oozing arrogance as he painted Marcus as a violent criminal, a danger to society. "This man," he sneered, "is everything wrong with our streets." The jury nodded, the crowd whispered, the judge barely hid his disdain. To them, Marcus was just another black man on trial, another statistic in a system that already had its verdict written. But what no one in that room knew, what Marcus had hidden for months, was that the man they were mocking, the man they were trying to destroy, was the very person who once sat behind the same bench they worshipped. He was no ordinary defendant. He was a judge. And today, justice had come wearing chains. The bailiff shoved him roughly into the witness stand, leaning close with a smirk. "Hope you like prison food," he whispered. Marcus didn't react. He just stared straight ahead, his voice calm when he finally spoke. "Everything you've heard," he said, "is a performance." The courtroom chuckled, the prosecutor smirked, but Marcus continued, his tone steady like thunder before a storm. "And performances end when truth takes the stage." The prosecutor rolled his eyes, ready to object, but Marcus reached into his pocket, slow, deliberate, defying every expectation. The bailiff moved to stop him until Marcus flipped open a black leather case. Gasps filled the room. Inside was a gold-sealed badge, unmistakable, undeniable. The judge's gavel froze midair. Reporters leaned forward, cameras flashing. Marcus's voice boomed, "My name is Honorable Judge Marcus Reed, and this entire trial has been an undercover investigation into corruption in this courthouse." Chaos erupted. The prosecutor shouted, the gallery screamed, the judge's face drained of color. "Order," he barked, but no one listened. Marcus stood tall, holding his badge high. "You mocked me, humiliated me, and called me guilty before hearing truth. But justice does not wear a robe, it lives in those who dare to seek it." The bailiff stepped back, shame flooding his eyes. The jury sat frozen, torn between disbelief and awe. For the first time, power shifted, not to the prosecutor, not to the bench, but to the man in chains. Then, just as the chaos settled, the courtroom doors burst open. Two men in black suits stormed in, their badges flashing under the harsh lights. "Judge Reed," one barked, "you're coming with us." The room fell silent. The prosecutor's smirk returned, the crowd gasped anew. Marcus turned slowly, eyes sharp. "On what authority?" he asked. "Orders higher than yours," the man replied coldly. Reporters scribbled furiously, cameras flashing again. Marcus's expression didn't change. "When justice becomes inconvenient," he said softly, "they try to silence it." The agents hesitated, their confidence faltering as Marcus stepped forward, chains glinting like armor. Just then, a commanding voice echoed from the back. "Stand down, agents." Everyone turned. A tall officer in a federal uniform entered, his insignia shining. "This man," he declared, pointing at Marcus, "is your superior." The crowd gasped louder than before. The agent stiffened, confusion rippling through the air. Marcus allowed a faint smile to touch his lips. "Took you long enough," he murmured. But before anyone could breathe, the lights flickered, once, twice, then died. Darkness swallowed the room. Shouts, crashes, panic. Marcus's calm voice pierced the chaos, "And now we see who truly fears the light." When the lights returned, the federal officer was gone, vanished. On the judge's bench sat a single envelope marked for Marcus Reed. The crowd fell silent as Marcus stepped forward, chains clinking, his eyes locked on the mysterious letter. He opened it slowly, scanned the page, then looked up at the room, his voice calm and cutting. "Part of the truth has been revealed," he said. "But the storm has only begun." The courtroom was frozen in disbelief, the air heavy with fear and awe as Marcus Reed stood in the center, still bound in chains, still calm, but now commanding the room like the storm he had become. Every eye locked on the envelope he just opened, on the faint tremor in his hand that wasn't from fear, but from the weight of revelation. Reporters whispered, cameras flashed, and the prosecutor's smug grin faltered as Marcus raised his head. "You all wanted truth," he said softly, his voice echoing off the wooden walls, "but truth has a cost." He turned toward the bench where the presiding judge sat pale and trembling. "This letter," Marcus continued, "proves everything I came here to expose." He unfolded the paper, his voice steady but charged with fury. "The Federal Oversight Committee found evidence of collusion, bribery, and falsified convictions, all tied to this courthouse." Gasps erupted across the room. The judge stammered, "That's impossible, lies, fabricated." But Marcus slammed the paper onto the bench. "Signed and verified by the Attorney General himself," he thundered. "You sold justice for profit, condemned the innocent to make your numbers look good, and called it law." The gallery broke into chaos, people shouting, reporters standing, flashes bursting like lightning. The prosecutor lunged forward, shouting over the noise, "He's lying. He's trying to save himself." Marcus turned slowly, eyes cold and cutting. "Save myself? No. I'm saving the truth from men like you." He gestured to the screen beside him. "Play it," he said. The defense attorney, shaking, pressed the button. The projector flickered to life, showing a hidden recording, grainy, but clear enough. The prosecutor and the presiding judge, in a private meeting, exchanging envelopes, laughing about "another one down." The room erupted. The crowd gasped so loudly it drowned the hum of the projector. The judge dropped his gavel, his face draining of color. "Turn that off," he shouted, but Marcus's voice cut through like a blade. "No more silence. No more lies." He stepped forward, the clinking of his chains sounding like war drums. "You called me a criminal while you were the one stealing freedom from those who trusted you." The bailiff, who had mocked Marcus before, now stood between him and the prosecutor, not to stop him, but to protect him. "Sir," he said quietly, shame in his eyes, "you've got the room." Marcus looked at the jury, at the people who had judged him. "You saw me in chains and assumed guilt. You saw my skin and saw danger. But justice doesn't live in prejudice, it lives in truth." His voice trembled with emotion, not weakness but conviction. "Every man and woman deserves to be heard without bias, without hate, without a system built to break them." The prosecutor, desperate, shouted to the agents who had entered earlier, "Arrest him. He's a fraud." But the agents didn't move. One of them stepped forward, pulling out his phone, revealing a message that silenced the room, effective immediately, "Suspend all proceedings. Marcus Reed is reinstated under federal authority." The crowd gasped again. The agents turned to Marcus and bowed their heads slightly. "Judge Reed," one said quietly, "you're free." The sound of the key turning in his handcuffs echoed louder than the gavel. The chains fell away, clattering to the floor like broken lies. Marcus lifted his wrists slowly, the marks still fresh, a symbol of the injustice he had endured, and overcome. The crowd stood, some cheering, some crying, as he turned to face the prosecutor one last time. "You built a kingdom on deceit," he said, voice low, steady. "Now watch it crumble." Reporters swarmed, shouting questions, cameras flashing. Marcus walked past the officials, past the trembling judge, past the same bailiff who now whispered, "I'm sorry." Marcus nodded, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Then learn," he said. "Justice begins where pride ends." As he reached the doors of the courtroom, the chaos behind him grew, a storm of confession, fear, and truth unleashed. But just as he stepped into the hall, a young reporter called out, "Judge Reed. What was in the rest of that letter?" Marcus paused, looking back over his shoulder, his expression unreadable. "It named every hand that fed corruption," he said. "And the list doesn't end here. The hallway lights flickered again, faint but noticeable. Marcus glanced upward, eyes narrowing. When power trembles, he said softly, it means truth is still shaking the walls. He walked out into the daylight, free, resolute, unstoppable. The crowd behind him roared his name, cameras flashing like sparks of justice. But as he reached the courthouse steps, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. The tinted window rolled down just enough for a shadowed figure to speak. "Judge Reed," the voice said coolly, "we've been expecting you." Marcus's eyes hardened. He stepped closer, the city buzzing with questions and unfinished truths. "Then I guess," he said quietly, "this wasn't the end after all."